What up? Hi guys, everybody on here. Can everybody hear me okay?
Hey, yes.
Hey.
Lewis. Brian Lewis with the hat. Okay. Okay. So we're actually missing somebody, but I don't know who we're missing. We're missing Tremaine right now, but I want to just welcome everybody on. I want to say hey to everybody. Welcome back to Live with Kyrus and our all men's panel Q&A. This is going to be an interesting one. We've got Deacon Byrne here from Favor Nation Church. We got Pastor A, the executive lead pastor of Favor Nation Church. We got Carlton, one of our praise and worship leaders from Citizen. We got Brian Lewis, my brother-in-law to be. We've got Aaron Brave. We got Aaron Brave in the house, my actual brother. And we've got Pastor Kevin Sykes from First Baptist, Kevin? St. Baptist. Thank you. St. Baptist Church in Richmond, Virginia. So, who's actually my godfather. So, I just want to say it's just an honor and it's been wonderful to be able to kind of work with you. These three men at the top have really been instrumental in my life and just, I don't know how to express it, but I'm happy they're on here tonight. I'm thankful for you guys. We've got some questions coming in the comments. Everyone, send in your questions to the gentleman on the panel tonight. Just send them in the comments and we'll be happy to answer them. Let's get this thing started. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Okay, is anybody feeling nervous? No?
Nope.
I feel nervous. No. Okay, so the men don't feel nervous. Okay, so let's get it started. I want to know, we have people who have been sending me questions all throughout the week and since last week actually, trying to just get some answers from the gentlemen tonight. So I don't need anybody to come on here and just be super quiet. I need some real life experience answers and just some real just some trueness. I need y'all to be true tonight. We have a question coming in. Lulu said, my friend said, if a man is gonna cheat, will he tell you where he's going or doing ahead of time? So if he's going to cheat, is he going to tell you where he's going or what he's doing? And try to make that, I guess, no. Deacon Brian, I see your face is scrunched up. Pastor A, I wanted you to answer this question. If a man is going to cheat, will he tell you where he's going or what he's doing ahead of time?
Wow. You want me to answer that question? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Well, first of all relationships are different. And so depending on the dynamic, this is just true. Depending on the dynamic of the relationship, that would probably determine how stealthy a person would be in the case where they were trying to do that or not. If they wanted to get caught, if they're trying to hurt the person, if they want the person to know, if they don't want the person to know, all these factors do matter. So that, that is very different. I would tell you just from counseling people, I have heard the gamut. I've heard people where people actually told someone what they were going to do before they did it. And there have been cases where people will just deny, right up to the end that it never happened. I got a picture of you. That won't me. That's not me. I don't know what you're talking about,
Right.
So it does run the gamut. It has a lot to do with the dynamic of that relationship, what type of person the man is, and also what type of person the woman is. So I'm sorry I'm not able to add more, but I have seen the full range of that.
Right. And I do think what she's saying is if a man's going to cheat, is he going to be honest? Like, I'm going out with my boys, or try to prep you ahead of time, maybe for his night out or something,
I will say this, though. I think a man does not cheat without a woman having some knowledge of some telltale signs before it happens.
Okay.
Because most of the men that I know that I talk to, or even in counseling, the reasons or rationales behind why they cheat, these are things that they have already, in most cases, communicated to their significant other already. Okay. So it's not like it kind of caught them by surprise. When it catches them by surprise, sometimes that's the kind of person who likely would not have been loyal to you in a relationship in the first place. So they were just being evasive or phony or fake from the onset because they had every intention on cheating and didn't really have an intention to give their heart to you in the first place.
Okay, that's good. Deacon Brian, what do you think?
Wow. What I think is, like Pastor said, sometimes there's always some telltale signs, but I don't know any man that I know of just gonna tell you that I'm gonna do something wrong and this is where I'm gonna be. If he does that, then he just really don't care about you at all, regardless. He's
Right.
looking for some drama.
Right.
Maybe he feels he's not getting enough attention. He needs the drama.
Right. That's true. I mean, that's good. Okay, because I think Lulu was saying like going one place, but he's like telling you he may be going one place, but going another. So he's basically setting it up, setting the scene for a guy's night, but it might not be a guy's night.
Yeah.
Tremaine, what is your take on that? This is your wife's friend's question, by the way. If a guy's gonna cheat, is he gonna tell you ahead of time, kind of his plans and where he's going? Oh, Tremaine, we can't hear you. Hold on. We're having some technical difficulties. Okay, while we're getting Tremaine together, Kevin, would you mind answering that, Pastor Kevin?
Sure. I would say yes. He's going to tell you, and this is how he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you because he's out of character. And sometimes persons are out of character, and that becomes the telltale sign to allow you to know that maybe something is going on. So that's something I think you need to keep an eye on is when persons begin to be out of character, either male or female. I think that they're kind of telling you by the way in which they're acting and things in which they're doing.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So I had some good answers tonight. Okay, so far. So let's go. Pastor Kyrus has a question. And she said, should you just settle if you're past a certain age? I'm gonna ask I'm gonna ask Pastor Kevin if you would do that, then we're gonna go to Pastor A. And then Aaron, I want you to answer this for me.
I guess I need a little more on the question. Should you just settle if you're past a certain age?
So if you think you're getting older, should you just settle because you're getting older?
Settle for anyone in relationships? That's what she's talking about?
Yeah.
No, Lord, I wouldn't settle for anything because of the fact you are older. So whether or not you're going to be able or want to even entertain persons because you're kind of set in your ways anyway. So I think settling with something is not going to work with you anyway. I don't think the relationship will even work out just by settling with something. And it has to be, as we say, and I'm not trying to keep this so holy, it has to be God ordained. And so if you're settling, it may not be God ordained.
That's good. I mean, but it's true. Pastor A, what's your thoughts on this? Should you settle because you're past a certain age?
Yeah, I mean, the word settling itself has negative connotations.
Right.
It means that you have you've changed the bar for what your expectations are, and in truth, perhaps your expectations are not realistic in the first place. Okay. So that's a very I want to drill down really specifically on that too. Expectations are the reason why people don't get married. Right. It's also the reason why they are unhappy in the current marriages that they do have. So sometimes unrealistic expectations can cause you trouble, whether you're in marriage or whether you're not. Case in point, you could settle, get married to someone that, who does not meet your standards, who's not aligned with you, and to even come back to where Pastor Sykes was, who's not equally yoked with you. You'll settle for someone who does not have a godly perspective like you do. And I can tell you, you're just connecting yourself, you're yoking yourself to something that's going to be hell for a long time, when you do that. So you really have to be careful about that. The best thing that you can always do in all these circumstances is work on yourself. At a certain age, I would agree with Pastor Sykes also. There's certain things you just don't want to entertain. And I think people who are older pretty much know themselves pretty well. If they're alone, many of them have desire to be alone. Perfect example. I remember my grandmother, I would ask her all the time, wasn't she lonely? She was, this is when she was like in her 50s or 60s. I said, Grandma, aren't you lonely? You want to get married again? She said, absolutely not. I don't want no man telling me what to do all the time.
Yes.
And I was like, but that was her perspective, and things were very different too when she grew up there. They didn't have the same type of, working, and they weren't able to work. They weren't able to do everything they wanted to do. So things were different. I think largely it depends on you knowing yourself, and settling is never going to work for anybody. It's just a negative connotation, really.
That's true. When you do hit the wall settle, you do feel negatively about that. Aaron, I'm gonna
Hey, I got something to add, Bree.
Oh, something. Okay, go ahead, Bilu.
So my thing is, if you're the type of person, man or woman, that believes that God's going to send your, like, you know, the person that you're meant to be with, why should age matter? You know, so if I'm 25 years old and I'm believing that I'm looking for my soulmate and that God's going to send that person, if I'm 50, I should be believing the same thing.
Hey,
so, right. You know, you shouldn't just be like, oh, I'm 50, so God's not going to do it for me. You know, you should believe that God's still going to hear your prayers and be patient and wait on the Lord.
Come on, Bilu.
Yeah.
Can I ask something
right, Bilu?
Sure. Go ahead, Kevin.
What is Bulu?
Bilu is Brian Lewis.
Indy came up with that nickname a while ago. It just stuck.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Tremaine, I want to ask you this question from Indy, and then Carlton, I'm going to hit you up for an answer. Why do men cheat when they have a good woman at home and the lady on the side is ugly? Just saying. So Tremaine, Carlton, you're next, so be ready.
Oh.
Tremaine, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Carlton, while we get Tremaine's audio together, Carlton, would you go ahead and answer?
Why do men cheat when they have a good woman at home and the lady on the side is ugly? I couldn't tell. I don't know why a person would do that. No, for real. I don't know. No, but for real, I think sometimes I couldn't tell you. I mean, I guess like Pastor said earlier, every case is different. I mean, if he has a good woman at home, then he may just not be, I don't know. It may not be her. It may really just be him. He may be being greedy, maybe an ego thing. And as far as the woman not looking better than the other woman physically, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a personality thing. But then too, you know, some men feel like, you know, maybe that woman who doesn't look as good as his wife, maybe she has self-esteem issues, and you know, people with lower self-esteem are sometimes easier to control and manipulate. So maybe I don't know.
Okay.
So
Tremaine,
good answer. Yep, good answer, guy.
Tremaine, we cannot hear you. Aaron, we're gonna go to you, Aaron. What's your take on that? When the side woman is ugly and you got a fine good woman at home.
It's horrible, right? Because it's like, dang.
You know what?
You don't want to be called a duck.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think it could be so many different levels. You know, there could be the emotional level that the person at home. I mean, you got to define good woman. I mean, because you know, some people, a wife could be calling herself a good woman, but also not taking the time to self-reflect at all. You know, not seeing any of her own faults. You know, not that there is ever a reason to go out and cheat or anything like that. But you know, because like I said, at the end of the day, I don't, you know, there's never a reason to go out and do those type of things. But if a woman is calling herself a good woman, I think she also should be self-reflective, right? Because it maybe in certain cases, if a man does do that, you know, he could be searching for an emotional need that's not being met. You know, a woman that's actually being submissive, you know, in different areas, that actually giving him the respect, like, you know, how we kind of started this was reading the book, the respect that he desires, or and the love that she deserves. I believe that's what the book is called. But you know, a lot of that was based on the command that God gave women to respect their husbands, you know, and husbands to love their wives. So there's a give and take there. But at the end of the day, too, I think people that are just going out and cheating as well, you know, I don't think necessarily everybody just wants to be a ruthless type of person to go out and do that. Sometimes they just fall into temptation because they're just not being on guard, you know. And so when the woman is ugly or whatever it is, they might have like let me just put it this way. This is what I'm about to say. Look, if you have ever been hurt had an argument before you left the house, and then you go out the house and every little thing is looking great or something like that, you know, because you get so upset or angry and you're feeling like, man, I just need to get this person back, or this isn't going to work out, you know, or whatever, then that's the kind of thing that kind of leads people to just accept anything and be like, well, that's the next thing. I'm just going to go out here and do this kind of stuff or whatever. But there's no necessarily just one reason where people just go out and get a person that's just uglier, I guess.
I'm just gonna say this. if I go out there, I'm not getting the ugly one. She's gonna be fine. In fact, she's gonna be better than my wife. If I'm gonna lose everything, she better be fine.
Pastor Kyrus was Pastor Kyrus one time had said that the lady, it's important to make your spouse feel like a king. You know, and so the women, if you're talking down to a man and really just belittling him, that's also unattractive. You could be the best looking thing and have a terrible attitude, not be supportive.
Hey, let me jump in.
Say it, girl.
I'm just saying, and if somebody's treating you like a king, they look really good.
Let me jump in. Now it's time to talk. Okay, are we talking? Okay.
Yes.
So let me say this.
First of all, Pastor. We talking.
Men cheat because a need is not being met. It ain't a mystery. Okay. Now they might be broken people already. The man might be broken already.
Okay.
But I can assure you that he's cheating because a need is not met. Now, the scenario, it's also an interesting scenario, the one that Aaron gave too, about, you're angry, you had an argument, you walked the house. That's what we would call a spite chick. Okay? That girl don't mean nothing to you. You just mess with that girl out of spite about the other person. So that person could honestly look like anything. Okay? Because
or nothing.
Listen, that person's that purpose is not to look good. You're not attracted to that person. You're just angry with that person.
Right.
So that the motive for that is completely different. This is not somebody that a guy might be in love with. And I used to give this analogy to people all the time, especially when I'm counseling somebody. It's like a piece of pizza. You've got a whole pizza, but when there's one piece of pie or pizza missing, a slice of pizza missing, you're still looking to be whole as a person.
Come on, that's good.
And so if somebody can fulfill that one slice, forget the fact that the beautiful person that you have at home is handling 95% of it. The 5% that you're missing is the need. And if they won't address the need or the area of need, or that you feel needed, that you need something, attention to, then of course you're looking to fulfill that need. This is how all affairs start. And I'm not talking about sexual affairs. This is also emotional or psychological affairs. The whole desire that people are running after a need being met or fulfilled for them. That's on both sides of the fence too.
But what about, I gotta say this for the women that feel like they might have been cheated on and it's their fault, because sometimes I really don't believe that it's always, I don't necessarily mean it's just their fault. You know what I mean? And some women I think will put it all on themselves and feel like I wasn't doing enough. But in reality, I do believe that there is a part of people that we can't be going out and comparing things. There's a part that a man has to take responsibility for himself and not have the comparison issue and not be out there comparing and trying to compare and contrast all the great things this person has and doesn't have. The grass isn't always greener, and that can lead a woman to feel like she did something wrong. But in reality, a man just has a lot of lust in his heart. He wasn't guarding his heart, or you know what I mean? So
that's a good point. But I was going to say, and maybe the other men can jump in. I have not met the woman that blames herself.
Yeah, I haven't met the woman myself.
Amen.
Amen. I don't know.
I don't think they can see themselves.
I've heard some stories.
Sometimes.
That's all I'm gonna say. I've heard some stories, and I wonder. I mean, anybody in the comments, any women in the comments, I feel like some of them have. It's really harsh on their self-esteem. I feel like, and they feel like they are not measuring up. I remember one time I was reading this book on men watching pornography and stuff like that. And it was talking about how once a wife finds out, their self-esteem can be so heavily affected because they feel like they're not measuring up. They might not vocalize it, but I think there is a huge impact on women's self-esteem in them putting it on themselves. I mean, that's my thoughts.
I think I'm going to have to be quiet for a lot of this podcast, but listen, I would just tell you from a counseling perspective, and this is what's good about having pastors on here too, or people who have, because we get an opportunity to look at a lot of different cases or scenarios. It's not just our own either, you know what I mean? Or maybe it's not even something that we would know in theory, because when you're counseling people, you go through a lot of, you go through training to find out what to say, what not to say. Right. But then you find out that maybe what you've read in some cases just does not materialize in real life. Like it's great that somebody wrote something, but in reality, these things tend to be a little bit more nuanced, right? And so I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a man who might have been addicted to pornography. And you're right, Aaron. I do think it makes the wife feel some kind of way, and it also sets an expectation in the husband's head too.
That's
but
unrealistic.
I've also heard wives say things like, you're looking at this. That's not even real. That's not even that people don't really do that. Well, I mean, people do really do that. That is something that really happens. There are people who get down like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if that's what he is after, and you're not that type of person, that's where the conflict is. You know what I mean? And so that's what needs to be addressed. You can't be in denial, and neither can he. That's just what it is. I don't think it's healthy for a man to watch pornography for the same reason that you mentioned, Aaron, because it's all about comparison. Same thing about a person who's been very promiscuous before they got married. You don't think for 1 second that the other visions and scenes do not play in their head. That's just not realistic. It's not true. And I do not care if they were sinners and not born again when it happened. It's still in there.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, but it's true. And there's a lot of women in the comments that are saying, women will maybe blame themselves indirectly, or they won't say anything, because I know. Now this happened to me in high school. Okay, now so that was a long time ago.
Be careful, Bree. You got all your folks up here.
I know, but it's fine. So it happened to me in high school, actually, with my best friend, quote unquote best friend. One, we're really young. Two, she was just, out there doing some stuff that I was not willing to do. And so, people do get down like that. And that was the situation that happened. And so instead of me thinking, well, dang, what did I do wrong? And just saying that, I just thought it because I was immature, not knowing I didn't do anything wrong. I was doing the right thing and living how I was supposed to be living. But like LaBarbara's comment said, sometimes she asked a man and the man said, sometimes it's just a scratch that needs to be itched. So she said that was a terrible answer. But in all honesty, I think women do self-reflect, and they may just, lay you out, but they might go in and be like, dang, what did I do? And you start thinking over time, did I not say enough? Did I not do enough? Did I not work out? What do I look like? What's this girl look like? So I think it's both. Y'all all gave great answers.
No, but I think, but you're missing one key point.
What?
If you truly blame yourself, I mean, Aaron phrased this really nicely. If you truly blaming yourself, or you truly self-reflect, you will come to the person and say it. You didn't say it to your friend. You said it to him.
Right.
And this is why marriages fall apart too. We're quick to say, top 5 reasons, of course, are one of the top 5 is communication. If you would say that in the relationship before things went haywire, they might not go haywire. Exactly. But the denial, or the trying to remove yourself from any blame in conversations when it comes up as a topic, these are the things that make people think this is useless, this is hopeless. I don't have my needs are not going to be met here. I got to go get something else.
That's true.
And I think the other piece is too, I think people are missing, the relationships are missing the fact that the relationship takes maintenance. If you don't work on the relationship, those are the types of problems you're going to have. If you're not hearing one another out, if you're not seeing and watching for the telltale signs, you're going to have these types of problems. And so I think people are missing the fact with anything, for it to continue to run and operate, you got to maintenance it. And I think persons are just not maintaining their relationships.
That's a good point. It takes work. Like we said yesterday on afterwards, I do think that everyone is ready for the event of the wedding.
Well, I think, hold on.
Oh, go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead, Deacon Burn. I was going to say people are ready for the event. Are you seeing? Oh, you're frozen, Daddy. Sorry.
Matter of understanding and kidding, because you have to have understanding and communication and know who you're dealing with, and they have to know your expectations and what they're capable of doing, so you know that if you're going to be a good match. Because sometimes people start off, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, till they get you. And then they turn the tail once they got you, and they do what they want to do and don't do nothing for you that they promised to do.
Okay, are you talking about Pastor Kyrus or no?
Oh my God!
Whoa!
Oh my God!
Huh? I thought this was
Don't
a
answer
safe
that
place.
question.
I thought this was a
Well, Pastor
God.
A, your wife came on and she said that the
Look,
women
Joe
are
said,
doing
I've heard.
what they want.
What's
April,
that?
our only lady said some of these women are doing what the wife won't do. So she came on and had her piece. I've got a question from Crystal. And Tremaine, now that we can hear you, thank God you're back. She said, why don't men want to tell their wife what she's actually lacking instead of going out and cheating? Why do men just not care to share what they're actually lacking and instead just go out and cheat? Like, why do they make it seem like everything's okay and we're doing all right, but she's still doing something else?
Who's that for?
Is that
Jermaine?
question directed to me?
Yes, Tremaine, that's for you.
Come on, Paul. Come on, Paul.
I honestly believe if you can't tell your woman that you disagree with her about a TV show or something that's simple as I don't think you look good with that makeup, I don't understand how you talk to her and say you disagree with something of that magnitude. Honestly, I think communication is essential. I think if you want to get in a relationship and you want to be married, women really have to stop penalizing men for what other men did to them. So if you want to be married or you want to be in a relationship, I don't think you should expect a man to have to maintenance you when you're not ready. So basically, the answer to her question would be they have to be more open-minded. Okay. If I can communicate with you and say, hey, I really like when you, let's just say, rub my bald head, right? Offer, I don't want to hug.
Oh,
I don't like rubbing.
Okay.
Yeah, like so when a woman may say, that's not my love language. That's not how I express how I feel. So I just think both parties have to be open-minded and be ready just to take care of one another.
I like to add to that too, though.
Go ahead, Carlton.
So what happens to the young lady who asked the question? So I don't always think it's the case where a man just pipes up and doesn't say anything. What happens when he's constantly expressing himself and the wife isn't open or the significant other isn't open to the to whatever the problem may be? She's not open to recognize a problem or deal with the problem. What happens? What happens then? And then to Tremaine's point, if a woman says if you like your bald head rubbed and the girl said that's not her love language, that's right, it's not hers, but it's yours. So she should be willing to do it. Be willing to accommodate her for hers. You shouldn't love a person how you want to be loved. You should love a person how they want to be loved.
Oh man,
exactly.
That was deep. I respect that.
I feel like all the men at the top have something to say.
I agree 100%.
Kevin, what's your thing about the communication and having the lines open and feeling like, okay, saying one thing, but then actually going out and doing another? Like, why do you think some of the men maybe that you've counseled or spoken to, why do they handle things that way? Is it, more so with Tremaine's response? Like, we can't talk about the basics, so it's going to be tough talking about this.
Yeah, I think both Tremaine and Carlton both make good points that, being open, hearing also what what persons want, what they need, what they got to have, whatever, however you want to label that. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times they don't feel like they can move into those conversations because of the fact the persons aren't open to hearing that. So when I'm counseling with persons and I kind of hear what's going on, what I have to work towards when counseling persons is getting them to communicate, because you can come talk to me and talk to me and talk to me, but I'm not going to be able to solve your problem. You have to talk to your significant other and tell them what it is you need out of this relationship.
Right.
And it's sad that you do have a relationship, but you can't be open and honest in your relationship on what you need, want, or maybe even got to have. Now, whether or not they want to fulfill that is another thing, but I think you have to have communication and be open and talk about what it is you need and what will fulfill you.
Okay. So when we're talking, so going out of the, somebody has something to say?
Yeah. I just wanted to add to it too. I mean, the Bible really just
I got something to say.
Serving, it talks about us serving one another. I think that's the greater point that Carlton was talking about, is that, you know, when you're serving each other, you're not necessarily worried about yourself or how I feel about doing this or whatever, especially obviously if it's a godly thing or whatever, you know, but it's like, I'm serving you, you know, I'm putting myself up to the side and I'm serving, you know, and I think that's the bigger issue, or the bigger thing, is that people don't go into relationships
That's true.
looking to serve each other. They kind of look to get served, you know, have service done.
The garden.
I gotta say this. I think we're putting a cover over this thing. And the reality is we're thinking that everybody's on the same level spiritually, and you can live in the same household and not be on the same level spiritually.
That's true.
And so the serving piece, yes, is important, but how one may be honoring the word of God, the other one may not be honoring the word of God in the same fashion. So I'm just attached to you because of the fact you do honor the word of God. So that makes me honor the word of God. And we have to realize there's some folks that are matched up, that some folks could care less whether or not God is in their life, because they know God is in your life. And because he's in your life, he's going to take care of me. So sometimes there's a part there where persons aren't really together spiritually.
Hey, and can we say this too? Can we say that communication sometimes, a lot of times, is not sexy? That's the thing. I think a lot of people go into a relationship wanting a mind reader. They want someone to be able to read their minds. And especially when it comes into the area of sex, if you can't read my mind, it's annoying to have to spell it out to you, you know. And that's part of the reason I think people feel like their needs aren't being met, because they don't want to have to speak up and say, hey, could you do something different here? Can this happen here? Because it's just not sexy. And we all agree that communication is not sexy, but I really do believe that it takes you having those not sexy talks to really enhance your relationship in the end game. You know what I mean? Because if you don't ever voice your opinion, then you will be a silent sulker, and you'll be like, dang, she ain't never gonna figure it out. Or he ain't never gonna figure it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and find somebody who can figure it out.
Okay, that's true, Aaron. That's a really good point. Okay, Deacon Byrne, what'd you have to say?
Hold on. I'm gonna go ahead and put the elephant in the room. Sometimes a lot of women will hold sex as a bargaining chip.
Sheesh.
They will come up. You tell them what your desires are, what you plan, what you like, you know, and you're doing all you can do. You're doing all you can do now. Hold on. You're doing all you can do, and they can tell you, okay, when it's time to, you know, okay, we talked about you doing this, and you do. They can say, well, hold on, you didn't hang the picture on the wall, so I'm not doing anything. They use it as a bargaining chip or some pressure over your head. So they're like, I don't care what you think. You know, it's not fair, because they're trying to hold part of what's, you know, biblical. Women do what you're supposed to do. Bottom line.
You know, I mean, we were bound to end up here anyway. We were bound to end up here anyway. But I think what my brother is saying is you can't use it as a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, you can't put somebody in emotional timeout because you don't like something, especially the way the dynamic is in a relationship. This is what's really crazy. I mean, I heard so many things. I guess I should have wrote some notes down about the stuff that y'all were saying. But I feel like I have seen a lot of this stuff. I feel like I've seen a lot of this different stuff in other people's relationship. I'm a type of person who watches people like really heavily to see the dynamics. And I remember one of my first counseling sessions, I was in my 20s, and I was able to sit in with the pastor of my church. And this man came in with his wife, and I'll never will forget this. She was talking about how happy she was that he had a chick on the side. Now, I was in my 20s at church, and I was like this. Like, I could not believe that she said that. And she said that because she no longer wanted to be intimate with her husband.
Okay.
But she didn't want to leave her husband either.
That's tough.
And I was just like, you know, my Christian brain blew off. I was kind of like, what? Like, I don't understand this. You know, but after being married and counseling other people, there are some areas of relationship where people are really struggling, and this is those needs that are not being met, where they allow other people to fulfill those needs. And you have to be very careful when you're a couple. You can only sub out so much of your responsibility as a significant other. If you don't like to talk and your wife is talking to somebody else, you don't like to go shopping and she going shopping with somebody else, but basically you subbing out the whole relationship little by little before you have to really work on these areas of your life where you're not congruent, or you don't feel like that you can supply that person's needs. So far as people not telling people about the things that they need, that was a really good one from Tremaine to to Aaron, rather, all the stuff that I heard. But oftentimes men will tell women what they need, and when it falls on deaf ears, the talking ceases.
Yeah, that's good.
Because let me tell you, there's only so many times a man
preach.
There's some humility that comes in this. Ain't been so many times I'm gonna come to you talk about what I need.
And let me say this:
there's some pride in there. There's some ego in there. There's only, and it's not. There's so many times I'm gonna be like, "Hey, can we do what we're doing? What we supposed to do?" When you say no all the time, those things have an impact on a man's ego too. So I mean, you start to look at all these different things as they begin to pile up. What bothers me most, and this is even what I have to pray when I'm in a counseling session, is when a woman has denied her husband physical attention, and then he does something, and then she holds him completely responsible for years for the thing that he did because she was not a partner for him supplying his need.
In the Bible, the Bible actually talks about
that's problematic. But go ahead.
But I mean, the Bible actually talks about you belonging to your spouse and your spouse belonging to you, and it really talks about the intimacy part of that as well, and that you no longer are your own. And even if you're going to fast and abstain from something, there needs to be a conversation there. So, Bilu, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the whole topic of men dating multiple women? And at the same time, in order to maybe find their spouse or find their mate, where should a man draw the line? Because I know you're newly engaged. So should a guy kind of draw the line of saying, okay, is it one dinner? Is it two? What do you say?
25.
All right. Well, sorry guys, just in case y'all did that. But my thing is, when I first started dating Indy, if she was hanging out with a bunch of guys at the same time because we weren't official, I would have been done with her. Because I can't be that guy that hangs out with a girl that's hanging out with other guys at the same time. To me, that would just be a turnoff. You do have to date people sometimes to get to know what you really want. But I mean, personally, right when I met Indy, I knew this girl was the one for me. But, that's probably because I met a lot of trashy women before her.
Basura.
But I wasn't hanging out with other women while I was hanging out with Indy.
Trashy.
Okay, so Deacon Brian, what do you think about that? What is it that you? What's your comment on that? And then we're going to go to Carlton.
For that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm laughing. I'm
going to put the elephant back in the room.
I was laughing at Andy. But what were you saying? What was the question?
You're going to be next, Carlton. I'm asking Deacon Brian. Wait, you're frozen. This is kind of going in now. I was asking, what are your thoughts, Deacon Byrne, on the dating multiple women until you find the one? Is there a limit? Is there a cutoff? What's the quota? And then Carlton, you're going to be next to answer that question.
Okay.
Why do they, Daddy? Come on. Give us the truth.
Well, I don't think. Well, I'm saying, I'm just trying to tell you now. Some people consider dating. If I take a girl to the movies, we out dating. We could be just hanging out, and then you become friends, and you become having things in common, and you like a certain person. Where the other girl, she may be a cusser or a drinker. You be like, hold on, now that I know this, we can't hang out. So you can't let everybody just go, and next thing you know, somebody done scooped up one that you really wanted to be with. So you kind of just gotta hang out a little while. That's what I think. Until you decide you get the right one.
Yo,
you gotta hang out till you get the right one. It's a process of elimination.
Elimination. That's what I'm about to say. That's funny.
Okay, Carlton, what's your thoughts?
Oh man, I mean, I can't. What was the question? Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, what is it? What is the quota? Like, why do men say? Why do men date multiple women? Kind of looking for that one. When is a good cutoff? Like, why are they doing it in the first place? Like, what is the point?
I think that's a. I don't think that's just exclusive to men though. I think that's a everybody type thing, and I think it's a maturity thing. I think you decide in yourself, like if you want to, date a lot of, what I'm saying. I think it's I don't know. Some people phases last longer than others. I can only speak for myself. I know I met Sierra when I was 18. Before Sierra, I was out here wilding. But you know what I'm saying? When I met Sierra, that was it. You know what I mean? So I can't really say. I mean, I found Sierra that made me want to chill out. For other people, for me, it took me my teenage years into like early adulthood. For some people, it may take them early adulthood into mature, seasoned adulthood. Who knows? I can't really answer that question like definitively. Like I don't know if there's a quota. I can't tell you.
I got to add to that, but yeah, I agree with Carlton though. Like it has a lot to do with meeting that person where you're like, I don't need anybody else. This is obviously the best one, Like when I was younger in high school, there was never one, or it was you weren't sure which was the best, So
Okay,
define the best.
Well, I put a ring on Indy's finger, so she's the best to me. But you all got your own best.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it too. I think the reason that people consider various options, one is because they have options.
Facts.
Like I'll never forget this too. I remember a man telling me one time when I was a youth at church, and the guy was like, "You don't need to be running around with whatever." Well, he didn't have the same options I had. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's true.
Like, unlimited.
Yeah. So when he told me that when he was younger, I mean, when he was younger, he didn't do this and he didn't do that. Like that dude ain't had the same options. I had, like I'm like, dude, your temptation was not as great as mine. You know what I mean? So I mean, I think you have to consider, I believe like Carlton was saying, everybody's situation is very different. But I will tell you this. I'll share this with you. I'm analytical. I was meticulous in selecting who I was going to be with. And I mean, if I didn't know how to use Excel, but if I could have, I would have. Okay.
Right.
I was really looking at, does this category matter? Does this category matter? And some of the evolution of me as a person was determining which categories mattered more to me because I didn't know myself yet.
Right. That's good. I mean, that's a good point.
There was a time where I was just looking at how somebody looked, then how somebody treated you, whether somebody was nurturing. These are all things that at different stages of your life, you need different things. And this is what's so difficult about marriage. I know we want to talk about that too, is that when you meet somebody like this. And then you grow like this. So at the point that you all met, there's a season where you guys seem to be, pretty much aligned, and you both grow as individuals, and you still have to find ways to make that relationship work, even though this is not the person you married 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So it's a very difficult thing. Relationships should not, I think people take them too lightly. I mean, they make you go to driver's ed. You got to take a whole bunch of tests, a whole bunch of stuff. If you want to get married, anybody can get married. You know what I mean? But marriage is something that's very, very particular. You got to take your time with it. You just can't marry the hottest, the coolest, the cutest, the one that makes the most money, because there's so many parameters and categories to being satisfied in a relationship. And which one is important to you is germane to you. You can't even listen to your friend tell you what's important about this relationship or that, because it's different for them than it is for you. You're the only one in there. You know what you need. And you have to really be thinking about, hey, are my needs being met? This is important to me. And it's not fair to the other person if you do not tell them in advance that these are the things that are important to you. I don't know how many people meet people under false pretenses thinking the relationship is going to work.
That's true. Okay, so when we think about that, so thinking about dating multiple people, Pastor Sykes, Carmen said, so what makes it okay for men to date but not women? It seems like it's socially acceptable. So why is it okay for men to date multiple girls, but a woman is looked at, a little bit different if she's dating multiple guys at the same time? Why is that a thing?
Yeah, Grant, I think she makes a good point, and I think it's not fair with regards of women. I think they have a right to date like men are dating, needless to say. But it's once you're viewed as dating like that, how persons look at you. But I see nothing wrong with that. The same thing, I think Pastor A hit it right on the head because you're trying to find what it is you're looking for. And just like men have a right to do it, I feel like women have a right to do it. But the sad thing about it is how it's perceived, how it's looked at. And so I think persons need to be mindful of that. I don't think anything wrong with it. I think both persons are able to date and they should date. But again, I don't know why it's looked or frowned upon when it comes to women.
I think it's the sampling of the goods that is the issue.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
We're going there. Okay, so if we're going there, then yes, that is an issue because guys aren't going to play it. You know, they're just not going to deal with it. As your dad says, let's put the elephant in the room. Guys are just not going to play it and realize that you've been out. And as Pastor A said, maybe the goods have been sampled, and persons just aren't going to deal with that, especially men.
Yeah, it's the body count. Okay,
let's be real. Okay. No one on this panel know they woman body count.
And you may not want to know.
You might not want to know.
So
you might not want to know, but at the same time, I think but men still have a body count. However, the parts are just a little different that are counting. And so that's what I'm gonna leave it there at. But men still have a body count.
Look, before we leave that point though, just to bring this full circle, this is why I think and this was not my experience, even growing up in the church, but this is why I think the biblical aspect, or the what's prescribed biblically, is the best scenario, because all of us remain intact. Okay, so if it's no problem with dating, okay, but if the dating goes into other types of things, then certainly you're engaged in something that is no longer dating.
Yeah,
that's something that's supposed to be reserved for something else. And when you do that, you not only put a ticket on that person, you put one on yourself too. And now you're going to be using that for comparison for the next person and the next person and the next person. And it's easy because intimacy is such a powerful part of relationships. It's easy to have that overshadow other categories and things that matter. Dating is for understanding those other categories. Okay. So it gets clouded by us being intimate too soon with people.
I agree. That's a good point, and it's a good point on both sides. So Derek Hall has a question for Deacon Brian, and he says, if a man likes a certain type of woman or flavor or a race, how does he not be considered colorizing or discriminating among Black women? So if a guy doesn't like maybe his same race, or he likes a specific type of woman, how can he not be considered discriminating amongst Black women? I don't know how to answer.
I'm about to say, it sounds like he's saying he like light-skinned girls, and he don't want to be seen as a. I mean, that's what if a man likes a certain, will he say we will say flavor of our race? That means I like a specific shade over another shade. Mm-hmm. Bro, that's your preference.
Okay, so Deacon Brian, what would you do? You just would say it's your type?
It's your preference, bro.
It's on me.
Yeah, it's on you.
I'm gonna say, like Carlton just said, it's a matter of preference. I mean, I understand, because back in the day, you would surely look at someone different if they was dating outside of the race or doing something back in the day. But nowadays, since I've grown up and matured, I know that it's all about love. How they treat you. Right. And so it doesn't matter who you go with. It matters if they're fulfilling your needs and what you like.
Okay. So
ain't nobody gotta live with them for the rest of their lives but you. I mean, it's your family, but at the same time,
that's right.
Gotta go home with them every goddamn day.
It's a difference if you're. I think it's a difference if you're demeaning. If you're being demeaning to the people that are not your preference, like you, right. You know what I'm saying? Like you're downplaying them because they're not your preference. That's a totally different thing. But if you like this over that, it's nothing wrong with that. But don't you know, make a woman feel less than or a person feel less than because they're not your preference. Like that's not
absolutely. And you don't want to block your blessing by saying that you only have a particular preference, because your wife can be of a different or out of your preference. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. And I actually have a close friend that really is not attracted to black men. And I'm like, okay, you still single too.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to her, but you know, when she, where the men at?
But it's true. I mean, but that's you're making a true statement, and I think sometimes preference can also come from someone's childhood and their desires. It's a lot of things that we look at as preference, or what we do in adulthood has stemmed from childhood and different reasons. And so if you're darker skinned and you've been joked about your color, you're going to look for someone who's better or think that color is better or whatever the case is. It just depends. Because my dad used to say that me and Indy needed to date a black guy. Okay. However, it was okay for Aaron to bring home J-Lo. Crickets. And he would say, son, just make sure she's fine. So I'm just saying, you know, there are certain standards and it just depends on the household. But we're going to go to another question. So Indy said, do you have to be completely over your ex before starting a new relationship? B. Lou, I need you to take this question.
You got to bring me into this. I'm just joking.
It's your turn.
All right, so, that's really hard. Honestly, like that's a really hard thing to like sit there and say that you can control, because what if God sends you that person, you know, that's supposed to be for you, and you just got out of a relationship that can honestly like jumpstart you to, you know, getting over that other guy or girl right away. For instance, Indy was in a long-term relation, like she was with the guy for a really long time before we met. And right when she saw me, she didn't even remember him. You know, she was like, dang, look at him.
I know that's right.
It was over. You know what I mean? I mean, for real. But when she started talking to me, I don't think she ever started.
So she ain't think twice.
All jokes aside, for real, I think for the, you know, for it's only fair to the other person if, you know, you at least be honest with them and be like, hey, I was with somebody recently, and you know, if you're not over them all the way, let them know, hey, it's going to take me some time. If you are over them right away, then that's good.
I would have to say though, if you told me that you weren't over somebody and it's going to take you some time, you have lost me in that conversation. You've lost me in that conversation, and I think it's great to be vulnerable, but you got to know who you're talking to, because some women are not going to do that. Then there's some women who want you bad enough, and they will be your healing pad and your Band-Aid to help you get to where you need to go, and they'll help you get there really quick. Me, on the other hand, I'm just kind of like, if you don't see me and healing anointment comes on you, I don't want to be around for your healing. Like, I don't want you to be with me while you're still crying about her.
Yeah, but I personally agree, though. I don't want to be, you know, dealing with somebody that is, you know, still having feelings at all, not even 5%. I want them to be completely over them, not talking to them, not even thinking about them. So
I would say in a perfect world, you would want that person to be, you know,
Very
over
true.
them.
Yeah.
But like realistically speaking, that's not always the case. It's almost not ever the case, you know, because even when that person's like, yeah, I'm over them, and then they see them or something happens, and then you see that switch, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I thought you said, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not always the case, you know. I mean, like I said, in a perfect world, I think, yeah, you would want them to be, but
just don't tell me. It's cool if you're not. That's perfectly fine. But just keep it to yourself and talk to your mom about it, because I don't want to talk to you about it. So I mean, I'm just being honest.
Okay, hold on. But see, but that also starts the relationship. That also starts the relationship in a false way. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the thing about relationships that make them so delicate. If I have to hide that from you from the jump, we already in that space where I ain't gonna be telling you stuff.
I don't want to be.
Just proves my point.
It puts a weird spin on things because then you're kind of and I think it puts a weird spin on things when the other person asks you, don't ask a question you don't really want the answer to. And so I think that could really just help start or stop a problem, because the truth is I'm not going to ask, because I don't need to start that in my own mind thinking about what the case is and what could happen and what's being said and done, all the other stuff. I'm not going to ask. I'm going to assume that you saw me and thought an angel fell, and we're going to keep it moving. But then when you do have to have that conversation, you kind of have to look at, is this worth it? There's so many different questions that come. Like, that's a loaded question, and I think there's so many different questions that follow that.
I think you have to be careful too, because sometimes you can be walking thinking you're in a relationship and you're not in the relationship. They're still in a relationship with the one that they have feelings for.
That's right.
So you can be journeying with them and holding hands and hanging at the movies and all that, but they still have feelings and thoughts for somebody else. So you have to be careful and make sure that a lot of that is gone, because if not, you think you're in a relationship when you're not in a relationship. And then another thing that was said that we have to be careful about is be careful about tucking things away, because if the right thing comes and gives it the water, the energy that it needs, that old relationship can come back alive again.
Yeah,
so you gotta make sure you rid it, because it's only laying dormant, and only because it's dormant, if the right thing comes and feeds it, it's coming alive.
Yeah, I want to know. Bree, I'm not like you. I want to know everything.
No, because you're so calculated.
I want to know everything, and if my ego can't take it today, it ain't gonna be able to take it later.
Yeah, for real.
You know what I mean? I just want to know what I'm dealing with.
Well, I mean, okay, so to say to that statement, to Kevin's statement, I think that's very fair, and I think it's true. And there's some women who are just walking in stuff blind, and you think you're the only one, but they're still technically really with someone else and in love with that other person. So I agree. However, knowing everything, I just think, gosh, and Uncle A, you're so calculated. So they think that they're talking to their best friend, because he will have you thinking y'all best friends and it's okay and it's wonderful and I'm full of grace and mercy. And Aaron will too. And Aaron will have you thinking it's okay and pat you on the back and then be getting ready to cut you on in the same thing. So it's just, I don't know, but I think it's a touchy subject.
I do think that technique is the best technique, and let me tell you why. Because I am a person that you can talk. If I'm for you and I'm with you, I'm still that person that you can talk to. But to me, the truth is the truth. Reality is reality, and not just for you, for me too. If I did something or I'm doing something, the chips are going to have to fall where they may, and we're going to have to pick up the pieces. I don't know how much time we have, and we didn't get too much into this. This sounds like, about to have relationships, but in relationships, there are a lot of times where people do not agree, or atrocities happen, or, egregious acts happen, or people hurt people. And you have to have that grace to be able to forgive them. If you're so afraid that you can't tell them and you're hiding it, it becomes a whole other thing. You know what I mean? It actually alters personalities. It's better just to go ahead and say whatever it is, as we've been saying tonight, what the elephant in the room is, and let that person deal with it and have you both clear the air. Because if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. Either you're going to deal with people who want to fight to make this work, or who don't mind struggling. That's another thing. Maybe that's for another night. Struggling seems to be off limits for married people. If they want to struggle, they want a divorce. The moment they got to struggle with something, you know what I mean? They're throwing in the towel too early. They're giving up too early. If I use that same analogy for me, April and I, like in the first 7 years of our marriage, I was just trying to figure out how to get out of it. I was like, how do I get out of this marriage with as little impact to me as possible? Now, I'm calculating, so I was going down the list.
Yes.
How can I figure this out? How can I whatever? And and had I thrown the towel in, had I given up, I would have never gotten back to the point again where I fell back in love with the person that I had fallen out of love with. Marriage is complicated. Part of the reason people give up so quickly is because all the married people have been lying to y'all the whole time. It's hard.
Yes.
It's very hard.
It is the most difficult relationship you will ever have in your life. It's unlike any other relationship. It's not a parent relationship where you got all the authority and control. It's equal. It's even. It's a seesaw. Sometimes they got more leverage. Sometimes you got more leverage. It's a very difficult thing. So if we can't talk, if we can't forgive each other for for offenses, if we don't have grace, if I don't extend grace to you, how am I going to get it back when I need it?
But this is in the beginning, though. I think we were just talking about in the beginning when it's very new and the person is telling you something.
It's
and
how you start. This is the point I'm making. There
are so many different sides. So I'm not disagreeing. I just think there's a whole lot of different sides, and I think it's all about how you handle those moments.
Brie, let me
and
say
you got to know who's with you and who's not, and that's a good time to see if somebody's on your side or see if they're not. It's you got to feel it out. Get some discernment. Talk to the Holy Ghost.
Let me say this too. I know you said that I would pat you on the back and leave you. That might have been. I'm gonna say that was older Aaron. Okay, that was younger Aaron. But I think Uncle A used a great word when it comes to people kind of taking offense of, let's say, body counts and stuff like that. I think the word is grace. You know, realizing that you ain't perfect either. No matter if you didn't sleep with anybody or no matter whatever it is, you have made mistakes in your life and you needed grace. You needed God's grace no matter what. And it's our duty as Christians and as lovers of of other people to extend that grace to the best of our ability. Now, I know there's some things you just feel like you can't live with or whatever, or maybe there's some things that you just need to shut your mouth about. I mean, I know y'all seem to be one for getting it all out on the table. But I want to read one verse from Proverbs that, I mean, it might not apply to every situation, but it does say, Proverbs 13:3, it says, whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. So I think there's some things you just need to shut up about. I think some things you need to take with you to the grave. People.
Amen. You gotta read it in context, man.
We are human beings. Yeah. And sometimes human beings, it can be really hard to forgive. And also, as human beings, it can be extremely hard to forget. Or some of us are more visual people. Don't tell me all the people you've been sleeping with, or don't show me the people you've been sleeping with, because I don't even want to think about them. So I think that's fair, Aaron. To me, if you're not asking, if you don't ask and you don't want to know, that is the dynamic of your relationship.
Right.
Okay. But for me, I don't want to walk in the room with three brothers that, what, him?
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the cookout and to the reunion and bro be looking at her like talking to his friend like, yeah, I can't.
But I think it's preference.
I'm not doing
that. Wait.
And
at the cookout.
Hold on. And I was gonna say I would rather start the relationship where I have nothing to lose. So I have nothing to lose. I'm not totally invested. And I can find out, hey, look, where are we? Where do we sit? If I don't want to know, I will not ask. If they don't want to know, they will not ask. If they ask, I'll say what I need to say, because I don't want to spend my life being phony or pretending when I get in the room with this person or that person. I want to be me. If there's one place I want to be myself, it is at home.
That's true. I mean, well, but I think it is preference, and it makes good sense. And then there's some moments you're vulnerable and bold, and then there's some moments you feel like Proverbs, might be talking to you. It just depends on the situation. But I have a question for Kevin. It's our last question of the night. And then we're gonna head on out. Ron Adrian said, this is for Pastor Sykes, for the panel, is it okay to stay friends with your ex even when you're in a new relationship? Pastor Kevin, what do you think?
Well, I guess there's times that your ex, it all depends on the level of the relationship from the ex. And what I mean by that, if there's children involved, you probably would have a relationship and friendship because you have to. But I think if you're talking more than that, I just want to kind of keep him or keep her on the side. I think you're asking for trouble and asking for problems. So I would be very cautious with keeping the ex on the side, because as I said earlier, the ex already knows you and knows your likes, your wants, and your gotta haves. And if you're trying to move into another relationship, the ex knows what button to push to get you. So you got to be careful of that ex, because that ex may take you somewhere you don't want to go. Or you might want to go. I don't know.
Good point. Tremaine,
what do you have to say about that, Tremaine?
I'm gonna just keep it short and sweet. If your ex was a friend, he wouldn't be an ex in the first place.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. How you want to be friends with your ex? If he was a good friend, then you probably would still be with him, and he wouldn't be labeled your ex.
Okay. Well, I think, but I think, okay,
All
so
right.
we have that. We've got that perspective, and then we have the perspective of if there are kids involved. But I think he's asking just in general, without the aspect of kids, or if it's just an ex person that you're dating, and you just kind of move it on to the next person. Aaron, what were you getting ready to add?
I was just gonna say, a good question is, are you okay if it's the woman? She was on the opposite foot. If the woman is, wants to be friends with her ex still, if you're a man that is vouching like, hey, I need to be friends with my ex or whatever, but are you okay if your wife is or girlfriend is still friends with her exes? And on what level are you okay with? I think it's got to be even playing field here.
I don't think anybody is. I don't think anybody's good with that. With letting persons hang with their ex. I mean, it's just me. I just think anybody's going to go for it.
I thought I was good with it. In fact, April and we did a lot of preliminary like focus groups before we got married with each other. What about this? What about that? Is this okay? Is that okay? I was trying to be very meticulous, as I said. And so one of the things that I was arguing for was because I was still friends with my ex, not a love interest, but friends, because that person was still part of my life. I was like, I don't want to give that person up. Right. And so, and April had an ex too. So when we got married, my ex didn't live in the town that we moved to, but her ex did. And she was going to lunch with that ex, and I was kind of like, about that whole agreement we had. You know what I'm saying? When I started to feel uncomfortable about it, but to me, that's the whole thing. Is you said what you wanted, you got what you wanted, it didn't feel good to you, so say something else. Talk about it again. You know what I mean? Bring it up again.
Open the conversation.
If I felt like I couldn't talk about it and I felt insecure, then I started doing stuff on the side because my ego was bruised. This is how all that stuff happened. So I brought it up again. Now, if she hadn't responded to that, if she hadn't cut that off, then that might have made me feel some kind of way. It might have made me feel like she was choosing that person over me. But she didn't handle it that way. She handled it, what was great for me. She cut that relationship off. And so to me, I would say don't allow them there. And this is what our rule was. You could have communication with your exes as long as it's not number two. And what do I mean by that? Number two is the person. Number two is the person it would have been if it was not you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's good. Hey. That's good. Okay, that brings a different point. Deacon Byrne, what do you think? Is it okay to be able to still have communication and well, I guess not relations, but just communication with your ex?
Well, it all depends on. With me, I'm just a people person. You know what I mean? So I feel you got to know where to draw the line. But I also feel that if someone comes to me for help and they're in a situation and I'm involving my spouse, it should be okay to help them out if it's a critical situation. She's not going to see it that way. So sometimes I got to do like Aaron said, zip my lip.
and do it anyway, Byrne.
Right. Don't dress this on yourself. Don't dress this on yourself, bro, on live, dog.
Pastor A is always trying me.
Well, but I think you do have to know your spouse. It is good to have that conversation. Yeah. But like Pastor Sykes said, it just really depends on the circumstances and the levels that come with it. However, Deacon Brian, my thing is, if that lady would have never met you and it's an emergency, call 911, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to get there before me. So I really don't think, I think unless a kid is involved, there's no real, and we're not business partners. We have, no finances tied into something. I do think that's a real touchy subject. If you're in trouble, what is defined as trouble that needs you to show up?
It's not really that hard.
You're absolutely right. But see, that's why I don't really deal with no exes.
It's not really that hard.
I stay off social media.
It's not really that hard. There is no relationship more important than your significant other. And if anything that you do is causing them to feel insecure, trust me, you might win the battle today, but you ain't gonna win that war.
Absolutely.
Yep, you're gonna cause a whole nother problem down the line.
Don't do it.
Better just not do it.
Okay.
It just creates
Well,
a
I think
That's right.
I think that was a huge point.
And
Uncle
stay
Ace
off
said.
social.
He said if anything you do makes them feel insecure, I think that ties into being serving one another and just loving one another in general, you know, and putting your own selfish desires aside. You know, I think that's a huge point. I didn't want us to overlook that one. That was a really good point.
that's true. Well, you guys, y'all have said some amazing things tonight. I think we really helped some people. We didn't even get to all of the questions that were in the comments. We're going to do a part 3. We will not be back next week. We'll be back the following week for a part 3 with an all guys panel. And I'm going to see if I can wrangle in some of these guys for a part 3 because I feel like they have more to say and more great advice to give. So I just want to thank everybody for coming on. I love you guys and I really appreciate you. You can also send in your questions to me if we didn't get it answered or something else you thought of. Send in your questions and we'll do our best to answer them on our following Tuesday. You know, check out Pastor Sykes' church service and Pastor A's church service. Really support Aaron's ministry, Carlton, and B. Lou with his fitness. And, you know, keep Deacon Brian and Tremaine in your prayers because, you know, they're on social. Deacon Brian is only on social media right now, but Tremaine is doing big things. So support the guys that are on the panel. They came in really were just such a blessing to us tonight. So I just want to thank everybody that's up here. I love you guys, and we won't be back next Tuesday, but we'll be back the following Tuesday for a part 3 of the All Men's Q&A. And, you know, thanks for joining Live with Kyrus, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Simple love. It's the back rubs and kisses in the evening, and the silly things you say just to make me laugh. Look me in the eyes and say you'll never leave me. Give me love, give me a girl, yeah. It's my t-shirt you wear when you're sleeping. It's the way the moonlight hits your silhouette. Love you till my heart stops beating. Give me love, oh yeah. I need love.